In this video, we're going to be looking at how to split a track into several frequency bands manually. Before we go any further, let's just listen to the tracks that are making up this composition as it stands right now. So what we want to be able to do is to apply different effects to different frequency areas within the track. But rather than using a specific processor for that, instead we're going to take the manual approach. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do within Logic is to select all of these tracks, and I'm going to switch off their output routing so that none of them are reaching the stereo fader anymore. Instead, what I'm going to do is to set up 4 separate bands so that all of these tracks are reaching auxiliaries 1, 2, 3, and 4. And just by control clicking these pots, they can all be sent to 0 dB. So effectively they're all level matched across all of these tracks. What I'm going to do next is to label these. So this is going to be my bass band. This is going to be low mid. This is going to be high mid, and this is going to be the top end. Okay, so if I was to press play now, all 4 of these bands would be receiving a full frequency mix. So any one of these will be producing exactly the same sort of frequency content. So effectively we'd have 4 times loudness. So I'm not going to do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is to select my EQ of choices, which is going to be the FabFilter Pro Q2. And I'm going to begin by creating a bass band. And this is going to be a high cut filter, which we're going to use here. And what I'm going to do is to select 24 dB per octave, so we get a nice slope. And it's now up to me to decide where this frequency point is going to come. So I want my bass frequencies to sort of roll off at around 120 hertz. So I'm going to place that one here. What I'm going to do for the next band is to copy the Pro Q2 across, but this time we're going to open up the top end to around, let's say sort of 750 hertz. Maybe a little lower actually. Let's go for something nearer, sort of 600. And what I'm going to do is to create a second band here, and this is going to be a low cut filter, again with 24 dB per octave. And that I'm going to obviously set at around 120, which is where my previous band rolled off. So we've got this little sort of bandpass filter here. We're going to remember that 600 is sort of going to be the upper frequency of our low mid-range. Then what I'm going to do is to copy this across and create an upper mid-range. So that's going to start at about 600. Let's just create that band first. And then we can decide where the upper limit is going to be. And we're going to set that around 4.5K. And then what I'm going to do is to create one more band, which isn't going to have an upper limit, so we can just delete this point altogether. And if we set this around 4.5K, we'll have created our 4 bands. So what that means now is that if I solo one of these bands, we should hear just frequency content either relating to the bass or the low mid-range or the high mid-range or the treble band. So this is going to be our bass band. And here's our low mid band. And there's high mid. And there's treble. And to hear all 4 at once, great, and now what we can start doing is thinking about the sort of effects we'd like to apply to each band. So in the high mid band, what I'm going to do is to select waves H delay, And what that's going to let me do is to dial in a delay. In fact, I do want a dotted eighth note. I'm going to roll off this analog band here. Now, I don't want this 100% wet. I want a combination of the original dry signal and some delay. Let's just solo this band so we can hear this. Let's hear that from the top now in context. That's working well. I can also employ the filters here to sort of limit these around my upper band as well, sort of 600 hertz up to about 4.5K. So effectively we're making sure that these are acting as filters just to narrow the content of the delays to the frequency band to which they're assigned. What I'm also going to do is to put some top end reverb here as well. Let's use Spark Verb from UVI. And I'm going to just create really nice long tizzy reverb here. Back the decay time down a bit. And again, I'm going to need to make sure that the mix is probably only doing a little bit here at the top. That's sounding good. And then I'm just going to add one more effect. Now this time what I want to do is to create a bit of extra aggression in the low mid-range, and I want to use Alloy for this, Isotopes plugin. So let's go and find it. Now in this particular context, what I'm going to do is to go and find a sort of synth treatment, and in particular I want this mid-range treatment, which I'm going to add here. So having loaded this, what I've got here is the opportunity to add this effect, but there's no dry wet mix here. So instead of actually putting it in the channel, which is going to create this sort of dominating effect, instead what I'm going to do is to set up a new auxiliary send from this channel, and I'm going to put the effect over here instead. So just because I've split things out into individual auxiliaries doesn't mean I can't use others. And of course, this now becomes my parallel fader for distortion. So let's just label that. And then I can introduce as much of this as I want underneath the mix. So you can hear how it sounds with lots of different volume balances. We don't need very much for this effect to make its presence felt. So by splitting out the signal into 4 different bands, we've then applied EQ to make sure that each band is limited to a particular range of frequencies. And then from there, we've either added individual effects after that in channel, or we've created a new auxiliary here for the low mid range just to create a sort of bit of extra aggression there as well.